Yeah. All right, what is going on, everybody? You are listening to and watching the Tacos and Te podcast. I am Eladio J. Montoya, and this podcast is going to be about me and hopefully a partner of mine starting a taco business, and I wanted to document versus create content behind that so I could really get a full vision on and learn what I need to go through to make that happen. So just to start out the episode, we're literally just going to jump into my laptop and I'm going to go over to Google. And I'm literally just going to type the question. How? God damn it. Give me a second. How do I start a taco stand? Literally, that's the question I've had on my mind for like a very good while. Not just a taco stand, but really a business. I've really wanted to open my own business, and I think food has been around me for a very long time. Like going back to fourth grade when I was very, very young, I started cooking dinner for my family almost, I'd say, every other night. It started with, small things like as a kid you're able to handle, like boxed food, like Hamburger Helper or Top Ramen, and you just make enough for everybody. And I grew up with a family of 10. I have a lot of siblings. And then slowly over the years, it progressed into like different things. Like I learned how to make meatloaf and enchiladas and a lot of family recipes, spaghetti, lasagna, like just tons of different things that you would expect any home cook or, just family just to kind of make for dinner every other night, just regular food. And slowly that progressed into a love for food that like projected me to want to go into the restaurant business later on in life. And as I grew over the years, like in high school, without even thinking about it, I started selling hot Cheetos and chips and just to make extra money, like cans of soda. And it was just stuff to make extra money to go buy burritos at my local, burrito truck and taco truck. And like that's where everybody went for their first date or just to hang out as friends or after sports practice. Like that's literally where everybody went. And burritos at the time were like $4. The next year they went up to $4.50. The next year after that they went up to $5. But it was a place that I saw that a lot of my friends went to and gravitated towards. Number one, because it was very cheap and it was easy, accessible to get. You got a good amount of food for a low price. And it was just something I enjoyed. I enjoyed like the fellowship of hanging out with friends and kind of like breaking bread with my friends because we got to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Going into high school and learning about this small little entrepreneur itch I'd never really thought about it long term. I thought I was just a kid just trying to, flip chips and soda to make a little bit of extra cash, maybe buy some clothes or anything that I really wanted. And then, like as a quick side note, and to anybody who was kind of like fucked me over, or things in my year, because they started selling hot Cheetos. They would get like bigger bags and they started selling them at the lower price because they were a school, I guess, and they were able to get like bigger bags of chips at a lower price and they would sell them for 50 cents. So I had to stop selling hot Cheetos. So from there, I started making stuff like chicken Alfredo and fried rice and like little home cooked things that I had learned how to make. And I was just hoping people at school would like it and buy it. And they did. Like for a good while, I was waking up at 5 a.m. before school to cook it, pack it, and then take it. And then some of the batches were good. Some of them weren't. Some of them sold, some of them didn't. Sometimes I made money. Sometimes I didn't and I lost money. But it was a really cool thing I had fun doing because I was around food. And I totally forgot about that because I went into the workforce after high school. And, I started working at the McDonald's and at Jack in the Box and at the local pizza place. And it wasn't so much about the food anymore. It was just about making money and just kind of doing your time and like making a paycheck. And it wasn't so much about the food. Now, mind you, because I worked in food, I was around food all the time. I got to eat a lot. But it wasn't food that I felt fulfilled in making. And I kind of felt out of a love for food for about a year or so because I went to work at a warehouse job. And from that warehouse job, I just hated it. Like, I empathize and sympathize for anybody who works for UPS, for FedEx, for like giant warehouses, and you're doing like you're always doing overtime, like 10 to 12 hours. That's your daily schedule, and you do that 5 to 6 days a week. And like it was something I did for about a year and a half, and I hated it. And it felt like I was going nowhere. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I got back into the food business, and I actually fell into a little boba shop in Pasadena. Shout out T-Spots across the street from PCC. If you guys are in the local LA area, that's a spot to go to. It's one of my favorites, and I've worked there. And I love the people there. I think they're all very, very nice and welcoming. So I started working there, and I fell really back in love with cooking food and like serving guests and just kind of being a servant in a way, which I think is underlooked in food a lot. Is if you work in food, you kind of just think that you make food and people are supposed to like it, or just because you're providing a service, you're like going above and beyond. But it's also the reverse side of food is like, customers or guests, they treat people who work in food like crap. But customer is king, and I think that you should do the best to serve your guests, and make them feel at home. And, if your food isn't good, people are going to tell you. If it's not good, they send it back. They don't eat it, or it's just not worth the buy, and people stop coming. So I think food in some ways is very black and white, where it's just like people try it, they don't like it, and that's the end of the conversation. That's literally how it is. For me, at least, in my point of view. So I fell back in love with food, working at a boba shop. And then I ended up getting into a bigger restaurant for Universal Studios, and which is where I kind of got like the full, I'd say, like pull, or like the full skill set, I guess. I kind of got some tools because I didn't go to culinary school, and I just started learning, the small things like, how much food does a certain restaurant need, what does it need for the day in terms of different recipes, like, like big things like chili or black beans or, Mexican rice, guacamole, pico de gallo, like things that a restaurant will go through every day that serves guests every single day. And you have to know a certain number and how to feed those guests. Shout out to my team over at Margaritaville. I love you guys, and you guys are amazing. So it was doing that every day for about, I'd say I'm coming up to a year and a half now. So I've been doing it for like a full-on year, where I started as someone, I was like, man, I want to become a cook again. I want to become a chef, and this is what I want to do. And as I started to work more into the restaurant business, it was more of a realization that it was never the food. It was never the restaurant style that I didn't like about food. It was sometimes it's just really the team and the people around you. Sometimes people make you fall out of a love for things because the job you're doing, like work is work, and sometimes you just don't like to do it. And that's just it, if you don't love the job that you're doing. But I also think it's also sometimes it's just the people you're around. If your people are encouraging you to be better and they want to succeed with you and they want to grow whatever project you guys are doing, then it kind of shows. Like work ethic builds, and you guys, like, it's like rubbing rocks. Like you got like one tool sharpens the other. It's in a type deal, like one knife sharpens the other. So being in the restaurant business, I'd say now for 7 years. Like I started when I was really young. I was 18 at the time when I first got my first job, and now I'm 25 years old. So I've been in the restaurant business, I'd say, for about 7 years, learning about food. And I've had manager experience where I stepped up as a manager, and I've also had like background experience where you learn how to order product and how to keep a restaurant full. And so I've had so many different things happen in the course of these 7 years, but I still feel like a rookie because I don't have my own establishment where I would always look back to, people that did. I'd go to like my favorite taco shop at night. Me and my girlfriend, we would go eat, and I was like, man, like these people, they make it look so easy. At least to me, like I always thought like running a food business seemed like the easiest thing, and I was like, why can't I ever get it together? Why can't I ever get my money right? Why can't I ever get into the mindset where I can go back to being business minded like I was when I was a high school kid and I was just flipping chips and soda? Why can't I flip tacos? Why can't I flip my favorite things that I love to eat and I love to make? And I think like that's really where this podcast is coming from, where I was like, man, you know what? I don't know how to run a business, and I can't make content. I can't make a podcast. I can't create something behind what I want to do if I don't know what I'm doing. So I listen to a lot of Gary Vee, and Gary Vee says, you should document over create. Now, this resonated with me so much because I'm somebody who doesn't have the skill set or the experience or the money to go out and just make my own business right now. So I thought I'd create this podcast as like a documentary and as a way for me to look back and grow on building my own tacos and tea business. So that's why this podcast is called Tacos and Te Podcast. It's not about the gossip or getting the local te. I have a huge love for tacos and tea and boba, and I've always wanted to connect these two things together because they play a huge role into the time that I've spent in the, not only in the food industry, but also in my lifestyle where, I'm a Latin American kid and I grew up with a lot of, Asian friends and a lot of Asian influence around me. I'm not quoting that I'm Asian or anything like that, but I had so much Asian influence around me that I started to love so much more about Asian culture, and I started to dive into stuff like that, and Asian food being one of them. I love Asian food, and getting to work at a Taiwanese boba shop and getting to meet an old Asian chef man who would tell me about his life, and he taught me so many things. It was really inspiring for me to want to do something like that. And I was like, I want to take this with me. I don't know where it's going to be in the future, but I'd really like to have my own boba shop. And so I kind of took that with me and I walked on, and I fell in love with tacos even more. And I was like, man, I think I could really make a business behind tacos. And I was like, well, I really like boba too. And I was like, well, how can I combine the two? And that's where I'm at today, where I really don't know how to combine the two. I don't know how to make a business. I'm not experienced. I might have kitchen experience. I might have been a cook experience and how to keep a restaurant full, but I don't have the experience of running a business. And I think that's why I'm here today. That's why this is episode 1 of me explaining to you, like, this is where I'm going. So I literally got $1 and I put it in a glass jar. And that dollar isn't just a symbol of, like, this is me starting my business. That's literally how much I have to run for my business. I don't have a lot of money, and I don't have very good money saving skills. So this is going to be me learning how to do that, how to develop my money, how to learn how to develop my money making skills, my time management skills, how to build a business, and going around and trying the best taco spots and the best boba spots, and taking something from that and taking, like, finding a gold nugget in there and taking it with me. And I think from that, like, I want to see where this business goes, because I'm not sure if I'll ever keep up this podcast. I really don't. But this business is something I do want to come up to. I want to, if you guys don't always see me post something, then I don't want it to be where that's not building the business, because I think social media is a big influence on building businesses now, but I don't think it's the end result. I think that the business that I build at the end of the day is going to be my own. And I don't think that my YouTube channel or my Instagram channel bears the fruit of what you'll see when it comes to my business. I think that growing a traditional business where you buy and sell product is the end result I want to do. And I think social media is it is like the best way to, how should I say it? It's the best way to advertise it. There you go. Sorry, I was like lost in the train of thought. So I'd say that social media is the best way to advertise it. And I say that for anything, like anything you want to do. I've had friends reach out to me before shooting this podcast. If you guys are watching this right now, I have a friend where she collects Funko Pops, like those little box collectibles on like pop culture, like Pokemon, movies, like anything. And she collects those, and she made a fan page, and you guys should go check her little page out and give it a follow. But I'm fascinated by, like, things like that, where it's not just niche things, but things a lot of people like that you can start content behind. And if that's something you really want to do, then you should do that. Like, if you like collecting Funko Pops, I think you should talk about it, because that's something interesting. Like we got into a full conversation about, like, how much Funko Pops are. I am surprised that there are Funko Pops that are like $1,000, and they're limited edition, and they don't make them anymore. And I'm like, whoa, like, this could have been a business I got into. I'm like, no, being a collector isn't my thing. Food is my thing, and I love food, and I want to be around food all the time. But if you are into Funko Pops or you're into Super Smash Brothers or something, and you want to make something behind that, like sports, if you're into, you want to be a sportscast, somebody, you should make content behind that. And I'm only quoting that from Gary Vee, from what I've watched. I don't have experience in it. I'm not the best content creator. This is literally episode 1, but I'm saying that in hopes that if you are watching this and you've always felt you want to make content behind your favorite thing, you should do that, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a taco shop, and I want to make content behind being a taco man. That's what I want to be at the end of the day, is I want to be a chef that's a taco man, and I want to have my own business so I don't have to work for somebody anymore, because I love flipping things to make money. And it's something I've done since I was a kid. And it took me 25 years to finally come full circle and say, you know what, I'm a beginner. And sometimes I feel like I'm late because I'm 25 years old and I'm not where I want to be. But it comes full circle because I'm 25, and a lot of older people tell me, you're really, really young. You have your whole life ahead of you. You don't have kids, and maybe you don't have your career yet. But that's okay, because time tells all, and you have plenty of time. So if you're somebody that's 25 years old and maybe you feel like you don't have your life together, or maybe you do have your life together, congratulations to you. But if you feel like you don't have the time, or you feel like you're behind in life, I'm somebody who's 25 years old and I don't have my life together. And I'm here to say that it's okay. Like, you don't have to have your life together today, right now, but you should get it together. You should get your life together. And I seriously hope that whoever is listening to this, that you do, that you don't feel that hopefully this takes off the pressure, that just because you're behind in life doesn't mean it's over. You can still turn your life around. You can still do whatever it is you want to do. You can make content behind whatever you want to make. Or if making content isn't something you want to do and you just have a dream of becoming like a veterinarian or something else, you should go do that. And that's where I'm at on my opinion of making content, I guess. But for real, this podcast is literally about making tacos. And so I have a few spots picked out in my local area that I'm going to be trying throughout the week, and you'll see those edited into the more podcasts as they come along. But I think for right now, this podcast is just going to be based on Wednesday. Like, I'm just going to put it out on a Wednesday because that's like my day off for work, and it's literally for the most part the only time I really have to make this podcast. So I'm going to take a few minutes and talk about my experience of, number one, going out and trying taco spots and tea spots and putting more money into this little glass jar to build my business, and then Googling stuff like literally, how do you make a taco stand? What business licenses do you need? Going into a Restaurant Depot and looking at pricing things out. I also want to do times where I can just make product and then take it out and let people sample it, or sell it for a small price so I make something back. And that's what I want to do with this podcast. I don't just want it to be me sitting here and talking all the time, because honestly, even though I do love podcasts, I think it's very boring when sometimes there's no context behind it. You don't get to see a visual I'm sorry, I'm very sick. You don't get to see a visual representation of what people are talking about all the time. And I think that I want to turn this podcast into something where you can see me go out and try spots and you get the review, or you can see me make my own taco recipe and I give my opinion on it. And if you guys want to try it, then that's totally cool. And I'll probably go out and let people sample it. But that's literally what I want to do with this podcast. That's like pretty much the goal that I have for this thing. And whether I continue to do this podcast after I make my taco business, I'm not really sure yet. But I know for me right now, the big goal, the big end result is make a taco business and make my own business and learn how to make it. And that's it. So thank you for taking this 20 minutes to check out the podcast. I really appreciate you guys. To all the people that came over from Instagram, you know me from high school, you know me from the workforce because I've worked with you before and we've kept up and we've become friends to where you've added me on Instagram or social media. Thank you for coming to check this out. And if you're new and you just clicked on this because you saw this was interesting, thank you for taking the time to listen, and I appreciate it. So until then, till the next episode of the next podcast. Thanks, guys.